All right, good evening. Appreciate everybody being patient. Let's sit and get some chairs and accommodating. This is unique for the LDFA, and we appreciate everybody being here, and we look forward to hearing from you. But it's our biggest meeting ever. I can just tell you that for a fact. But thank you. Thank you for being here, and I know the staff's working to try to get some additional seating. I will call the meeting to order. Michelle, do you have the roll?
I do.
All right, so this is the December LDFA, DDA, BRA meeting. It's our regular meeting. Our meetings are scheduled the fourth Thursday of the month. But obviously next week, Thursday is Christmas, so it's on this day. I don't do social media, but I've heard some of the reasons why you're here, and we look forward to hearing from you. And so I want to give a little bit of a recap. On October 30th, the LDFA did have a meeting. It's available, publicly available on the Marshall City YouTube channel. I know it seems like a lot of people have been looking at it. I checked on it this afternoon and there were over 1,000 views, which is great. I also wish I'd have checked on it yesterday because I'd have worn a different shirt. So if you look at that, you'll see that this looks very familiar. So I do have more, but this just is the way it worked out. So at that meeting, the LDFA entertained a local, not local, but independent developer, not affiliated with, and not supported, not affiliated with any local or state economic development agency. They brought a presentation to us that included the potential acquisition of undeveloped, industrially zoned property within the LDFA boundaries. In that meeting, the LDFA did enter into a purchase agreement with them that allowed them to begin a very lengthy due diligence process to find out if there is a potential and a feasibility for a data center on that property. If at the end of that process, and again, it's very lengthy, up to a year, the developer feels that some semblance of a project is feasible, that group will have to continue to go through the very public site plan review, project plan review, permitting review that would comes with any project, and they would have to deal with various agencies to be able to make that project come to fruition. So that's the gist of that meeting. Today's meeting here, if you've looked at the agenda, again, it's the normal meeting. Our only course of business that's official to the meeting is a brownfield relocation project for folks that want to develop a couple buildings downtown Marshall. And they're looking for a little help from the brownfield folks from that. So all of that being said, we'll go to the meeting. And from the board members, we have an agenda. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any further discussion on the agenda? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. So we are here, which I think is all you're here. I'm glad it's up at the front because we appreciate your time. But this is public comment. You're all welcome to come to the podium and speak. It is 3 minutes. This is where we get to hear from you. Please direct your comments to the chair, not to anyone individually or not to anyone in the audience. But just share with us your thoughts, and it's greatly appreciated. So if you want to raise your hand, I'll call on you. We don't have a sign-in sheet. I'm just trying to make sure everybody's accommodated. So, or somebody can step up. It's just the way it is. All right, sir. Start the clock once you get up there. Okay, the city manager's got that. He's running the clock.
David Begg, 504 West Green Street, Marshall. I think I feel fortunate to speak first. We have a lot of controversy and tension in this community about new projects that are being developed. And I want to begin by saying thank you to all of you. Some of the people that are working on these projects and working very hard are volunteers. When people are elected officials that don't really get paid enough to go through what they go through. And we are a community. And I hope as we progress through this meeting, as we progress through these different projects that are coming up, I would love to see some, more employment opportunities come to Marshall that pay good wages. I'm concerned about the data center and I'm concerned about, the effect it will have on the environment and how it will have an effect on the people that live in this community. But I hope that we can all remember that we live in the same community. And the more that we openly share information, and the more that we have an intention to work cooperatively together to resolve issues, the smoother this will go for all of us.
Thank you. And I forgot to mention that you did a great job. Please, if you would, your name and your address for us when you come on. Thank you.
Hey, everybody, I'm Mark Sherman, live at 9757 15.5 Mile Road. I live in Marshall, and similar to what Dave was saying, I just wanted to kind of piggyback off that. Yesterday, I submitted a written request to the city clerk, copied the mayor, city manager, and city council, asking that we simply schedule a dedicated public information session on the proposed Altera data center and power plant project at the Brooks Industrial Park. I just wanted to share that request directly here at the LDFA as well, since this body approved the purchase agreement on October 30th. And as you saw, since the information's become more widely available or known this week, over 100 residents in town have shared it on social media. Just kind of being unaware of the scope in general. And I think in particular, the 1 gigawatt natural gas power plant adjacent to Brooks Nature Area and Stewart Lake as being a big part of this project. I'm not asking for anyone to take a position on the project today. I'm simply, like Dave, asking for the opportunity for residents to hear from city officials and the LDFA to understand timelines, approval process, and ask questions in a structured format. I believe that'll lead to more productive community engagement as the project moves through permitting. Thank you.
Come on now, some of you guys got something to say. Let's go.
Hi, my name is Casey Boris. Address is 11415 18.5 Mile Road here in Marshall. And I am also here concerning the data center. We live right next to the lake. We know that growth is inevitable, but if we're looking for jobs, unfortunately, this is not a direction, obviously, that provides permanent jobs for our community. And so there's a ton of different health concerns, right, for the families living in that area. Long term, we've seen, all of us with our thumbs typing around and going and doing a ton of research. My husband and I have done plenty on our own this week concerning the data center and potential of it coming in and the noise potential from the health concern to our electricity bills going up. There is so much concerns. I hope that the committees are going to give us an opportunity to be able to step up, voice our concerns like we are tonight, but maybe specifically about the data center is our request from, I know, our family here locally. We have children, we raise our children here, they grow up here, but also long-term, if it is something that is gonna have pros that outweigh a little bit more than the cons, then what can it do for the residents that are locally that are going to have to be able to be the ones that see the extra lights, right? Kind of probably gives flashbacks to all the conversations about the board, right? We're concerned now in the same exact area that, between noise to pollution to just the water life in general. So we do request that we have the opportunity to be able to sit down and actually have the conversation before it's sold. Not sure where the steps are right now. And again, the communication to increase in this area to keep, citizens happy, taxpayers happy, and everything, since we just feel like a little blindsided. Unfortunately, we have heard about it. We had a 48-hour, notice that all of that was even in talks, and it's not that we're not plugged into the community, but we're also not aware of some of those changes. So communication, we ask for it to be very transparent across our association page as well, if possible, so that we can be able to sit down and just have the hard, real conversation, figure out what's better, the pros and cons from this data center. But there are many concerns, and unfortunately, that also means that if our voices aren't heard, there's a lot of families who will have no problem packing up and getting out of town because of some of the changes that are potentially going to be happening. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Barry Wayne Adams, 622 West Green Street. I am taking a position. I am in severe opposition to any emplacement of a data center. I'm amazed that we just let some guys come in and throw a nice looking presentation at you and not do any critical, skeptical research on what a data center really is and what it's for and what it does to the environment and what's going to have to be done to the wetlands out there in order to mitigate the problem of nature. So we're going to do whatever it takes. I mean, you might try to push this through, but there is going to be opposition, just like there was opposition to the renewable plant and what the city did with the referendum. So if you want your function as local government to be in a constant position of adversariality, I guess go ahead and do what you're going to do. But the facts are on our side. There's a statewide movement that is trying to stop the imposition of data centers for a very good reason. You guys need to do your research on this. Look up Palantir, Palantir. This AI is not for our benefit. It's not so high school kids can cheat on their English essays. There's a bigger agenda going on, and don't be tools in this agenda. Think for yourselves, think for us. You know, I want my grandkids to be able to live in a pollution-free environment that isn't filled with constant humming and mindless addiction to smartphones. If anything, with this data center situation, it's going to cause us to take a look at our own worldview as to how we're using the planet. We can either have smartphones or we can either have deer and possums and raccoons and birds and cranes. Nature is beautiful. Smartphones are narcissistic. We don't need to follow that path. The technological path is necrophilic. It is lover of death. There's nothing living in a smartphone. All we're doing is just pandering our own narcissism. Things are going to be happening in a major way that have to actually transform how we view our land usage, and that it not go by the single standard of how it makes more money. You guys need to think more.
Gary.
Tell the truth. That's right. That's right.
Gretchen Esser, 219 North Eagle Street here in Marshall. Unlike Barry, I am not amazed at anything that the city does in any capacity. I would like to think you would listen to the people on this, but we thought that about Ford. I'm hoping that you will listen to the people and what they have to say. I'm hoping that this will be actually allowed to go to a vote if it needs to come to that. There are so many things besides the cell phone issues with these centers. That you would have to mitigate so much wetlands, so many acres of wetlands to do this, so close to a lake that people live around. But again, with the other facility that has been built in town, not a thought was given to the people who live around that. I am inside town, but there's so many words I could use. I'm just so frustrated and angry. Those are two good ones that are nice ones to use. We moved here to live in a small town to raise our children in. I didn't want to live in a city. If I did, I would have moved to a city. We've lived in, this is our fourth state we've lived in. I've always grown up in a small town except for out west when we lived in Colorado. And this is not the place for any of these facilities. this isn't it. I guess if you're making money off of it, it is. But the people who live here, the majority of them are not living here to live near these facilities. Or again, they would have moved to Detroit or Grand Rapids or Lansing. It's time to start listening to the citizens here. Stop thinking about your own pockets or whoever's pockets are being lined and listen to the people. Listen to nature. We only have so much land. Look at all the land all these other countries, especially China, are buying up. We only have so much land. Natural areas, farmland, it's all going away. And once it's gone, you can't get it back. You can't put it back the way it was. Please, please listen to the people on this. Please let us have a vote if it comes to that. And think of others, think of other people. These data centers aren't being built because you're thinking about the citizens of Marshall. It has nothing to do with jobs for Marshall. It has nothing to do with the betterment of Marshall for the citizens who live here. And the people who live here, there will be, as this lady back here mentioned, there will be people who will move out because they don't want to be near this. Will there be people who move in? Possibly. Will they be the people you want living here? Don't know. Some people won't be here to find out that part, but I would just appreciate you deeply reconsidering these issues before you take it any farther. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Lynn Slight. I live at 507 Fair Street. And I wrote down what I was gonna say because I'm so deeply upset, angry, sad. I'm so deeply upset that I was afraid that what I might say if I didn't read. So I'm gonna just read to you. Wetlands are the unsung heroes of the planet. Yet you're treating our Brooks wetland as if it's wasteland, like it has no value. Did you know that wetlands prevent flooding? Do you think that flooding can't happen here? Think again. Open your eyes to what's happening across the planet. We're destroying our planet, one foolish decision after another. Did you know that an immense variety of plant and animal species depend on the Brooks wetland? In fact, more than 1/3 of the United States threatened and endangered species live only in wetlands. Each one of us makes decisions every day about what we value. Jane Goodall said, every single day that you live on this planet, you make a difference. And you get to choose what kind of difference you make. Did you know that the United States Environmental Protection Agency stated destroying a wetland is just as harmful as destroying a rainforest or a coral reef? You really want to be responsible for destroying an ecosystem comparable to a rainforest? Do you really want to be responsible for destroying an ecosystem comparable to a coral reef? And I am not making this up. It is in this document right here. It's a current EPA document. Signing the purchase agreement with Altera Development was a foolish decision. You can say no. And I know it's hard to say no. So I would suggest you stand in front of the mirror and you practice and say, no, 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 no. Like, no, I don't agree with that. No, I'm not going to sign that. And if no is too hard, try wait. Like, for example,
Thank you.
wait.
Your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would say, we and let us learn about this before we make this decision. Thank you.
Rebecca Sebring, Fredonia Township. So I'm in opposement to this data center after researching it a bit. It is just for AI, and even if the police use it, they have to pay a monthly fee for it. During construction, it will cost the Marshall taxpayers every 30 days, $10,000 for the amount it's not done. Also, it will use 5 million gallons of water per day only to keep it from going up in flames. The water will dissipate and you will no longer have the water. So it should drain the aquifer in the area as well. Not to mention, your plan for 4 years later, putting in giant power lines, that will increase, they're finding around the US and the world, that it increases everybody's electrical bills within hundreds, month by month. Can you think of our senior citizens maybe living on a pension? Do you think they can afford that? They're not getting dark money from the CCP. I'm just saying, you guys give us no chance on the mega site, and now you're gonna shove the data center down our throat and not get an opinion. I'm glad you're finally having an opinion, but like Lynn said, she's on point. So is Barry, so is everybody. So I hear these things give off a hum you can hear about 50 miles away. I'm sure the folks on the lake are gonna find that relaxing as the lake slowly drains out and will not come back. Let's see. This is just wrong. You guys have been doing this to us. You do realize the people, actually, it's their money you're using all the time. It would be nice if you listened. In the last meeting, you gave the chief of police a hard time about a carpet. Instead of like, and then you're just going yes to the solar panels and everything else. I wish you would listen to the people. What you're doing just seems like racketeering anymore. You guys are bending the rules, and you know, if you continue to break the law, more charges will be pressed upon you. As far as I can see, you probably got about 5 different charges against you right now. Go ahead and keep going. You think we're all gonna sit down and take it from you anymore? You're wrong. We're all tired of it. And I am not moving. My family's been here for 120 years, okay? We're not moving. This is wrong what you're doing. You need to think of other people and your karma. May it be rich, thick, and swift if you don't stop doing this stuff to all the community.
You.
I good? Okay, hello, I'm Lauren Bruggeman. I live at 203 Forest Street here in Marshall by the high school. I do a lot of conservation volunteer work around town. I'm very passionate about the environment and especially local environment around me because I feel that I can make the most impact here. And I am part of the Brooks Nature Center board. So I care very deeply about that space. We've been doing, they fought really hard to conserve that area. As a community that was going to be turned into a development, and we fought for that. And I think it was very worth the fight to conserve our park there. And we are very active board there. We all work very hard. We meet, we have monthly meetings, and we all discuss conserving the Brooks Nature area. That being said, I think that the data center would be very detrimental on our environment. And I understand that there's a huge need for, finances and bringing more money to town. And I understand that would probably bring a huge chunk of money to town, but really it would create jobs to build the data center, but not necessarily these stable positions for people. Once it's there, and it doesn't take a lot of manpower to run that place. So not only that, it requires a lot of energy, obviously, which produces a lot of heat, which requires cooling. So we're going to have to use a lot of water. And that is just an absolute waste. That would make our bills go up for sure. We're all going to see that. And that, I know nobody would be happy about that. And they pick vulnerable small towns like this because they know that it can go under the radar, no one's really gonna notice, and they'll just put a facility in small towns. And now they're coming for us, and that's very hurtful, I think, for a lot of people. A lot of people don't even really know about this. And I mean, most of us only heard about it a couple days ago. You know, I'm sure if we had some notice, we'd probably be packed out the door. Let's be real. And I mean, there are a lot of vulnerable species that live in wetlands, and some of them are protected. And I don't know, I know the more money you pay, the more you get away with, right? But a lot of the times they try and get away with it by saying, hey, well, I know we're destroying this environment here, but hey, we'll pay money and we'll make a new wetland somewhere else. And a lot of times it's not even our own communities, it's towns away, you know, and you can't rebuild something. It's like cutting down an old growth forest. You can't just rebuild an old growth forest. It's been there for hundreds, not if not thousands of years, some of these ecosystems, you know, and you can't just rebuild it. You know, it takes years and years and years and years and years to be what it was before. And wetlands are something to be protected. Absolutely. Thank you.
My name is Eric Gibler. I live at 521 North Kalamazoo. I don't have an actual opinion. I can ask questions. I'm not sure who to address this to, but I have a few questions. I have some questions about Altera, and I don't know who would answer that.
This is public comment, so it's not really a.
Oh, it's not.
But if you want to put your questions
Sure,
on.
well,
record.
I'm just curious how old Altera is and how it's. The hybrid facility, is projected to generate 1.0 gigawatts and the load is 1.5 gigawatts. And I was curious where the other 0.5 gigawatts will come from. TC. No answers. Of course not. And the other last question I have is, if this project doesn't go through and the land has been granted to Altera, what will happen to the land?
Those are good questions.
Yeah,
No.
I don't like that answer.
But there's no answer.
I get the other people who've asked for some time for us to ask these questions. I thought that this meeting was about that. I also then would request time to get an answer to some of these questions, which I think all of us are concerned. Thank you.
Who's getting these notes?
Wayne Wright, Marshall Township. A couple things just to kind of bring up is, I think there's a lot of questions about what can be answered, and I know from being an elected person, like, you can only listen at this point. You can address some of those questions, so, you know, writing those things down, I understand that procedurally, because of how government works, you can only listen at this point. But it is one of those questions about how much water is something I think that people want to know. How that's gonna affect the aquifer in the area. I think energy is a big concern. What incentives or abatements will this facility have? I think are some questions. And also concerns as we see a lot of local businesses struggling. I see a couple in town that are closing their doors. And from talking to some of those business owners, they say they're just like, I just can't afford to keep my doors open. And they're small business people who've invested into our community, who have been there a long time and love the community and they live here. I'm also concerned about how much of the jobs that will be invested here are actually going to be from Marshall and Marshall Township area. Because my big concern with large investments like this is that most of the high paying jobs actually come from out of the area. So those monies don't actually get spent in Marshall Township, Marshall area. They're, you know, people that are commuting or are virtual from another location. And so the monies that, you know, the abatements are left to the people who actually are living in this area. And the business owners, the small business owners that that are here already. And I know that they're feeling the squeeze. And so those are just some of the concerns I have about that. You know, I'm concerned about the water. I'm concerned about the environment. But I definitely, please look into those things, get the answer to those questions. And if you can be transparent about that, we'd like the answer to them. Thank you.
Lee Rathwell, Marshall Township. This seems to have come up awfully quickly. We always, in this area, it seems that we have a transparency problem. We have a problem with NDAs and dark money, but NDAs shouldn't be signed, but I'm sure they were. This particular program or building and site is not really fit for a wetland area, not fit for a small town. Will it pollute? Yes, it will pollute. Will it take the water? Yes, it will take the water. Will it increase everybody's electric bill? Yes, it will do that too. We really need to consider those things. We need to consider whoever's making the money. Of course, there will be a lot of money at the top, and we, the people, will pay for it. We need to see, are the wetlands really worth a few dollars in just a few people's pockets? I don't think they are. I think our environment, once you pollute it, once you build a big mega mess on an area and take even the good soil out, you can't undo that. You can't undo ruining the wetlands. You can't undo polluting. And I think that the lack of transparency, the secrecy, all of a sudden this happens. Where's the question and answer program or time for everybody to come in and just ask those questions and get some real answers so that even you know how the people feel about something. And our questions are never answered. We just all of a sudden, oh, this is the best thing for us. Well, no, it might be the best for a handful of people at the top that probably don't live in the area. So it's not going to spread money around here, except for maybe a very, very top handful. Most of the money will be spread somewhere else in people's pockets that already have it. They don't need more. Leave our land alone. Leave our environment. Let us live clean in a small town. Most of us live here because we don't want to live in Detroit. We don't want to live in a big city. We live here where we have this small town feel. Clean air, clean water. Thank you.
Thank you.
Borrow your cane. Put paint on this side or the other.
Whatever.
You agree with me on what I had to say. Brian Munger, 200 East Fruit Street, apartment 216, Marshall, Michigan, 49068, Calhoun County, part of the state of Michigan. I'm a citizen of the United States of America. I have some problems here as far as I'm an outsider in this town. Came to this town in 1990. I didn't go to school here. I didn't grow up here. I didn't have kids in the school system. And I've been branded basically an outsider most of the length of time that I've been here. And I've been many city council meetings over the years.
And, I'm sure they dreaded seeing me come in the door. Now, one of the things that I can speak here, and I'm only one person. One person you can dismiss. You don't really care what one person thinks. And what I'm asking is that I'm going to relinquish the rest of my time to those people who support the non-support for the third failed attempt to destroy our Stewart Lake area. So please repeat after me. We don't want it. 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 We don't want it.
Don't want it. Don't want it.
We don't want it. We don't want it. We don't want it. We don't want it. We don't want it. We don't want it.
Yeah, I gave you a little, I'm just gonna call for a little bit of order. Thank you.
Hope you heard it.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
I relinquish the rest of my time. Thank you.
Jeff Wilson, I live in Marengo Township. I also have property in Eckford Township that's about 5 miles from the proposed data center site. I share the environmental concerns that have been expressed here already. I share concerns about the water usage. I share concerns about the increase in electric rates that are likely to accompany a data center. I want to address an environmental concern that hasn't been raised yet, and that's the effect on our ability to enjoy the night sky. Light pollution is increasing, not only nationwide, but worldwide. From downtown Marshall, you can't see the Milky Way, even on a wonderful clear night. About 2 or 3 miles out of town, you can, at least on the best of the nice clear nights, unless you live west of Marshall. And now you can't see the Milky Way anymore on that nice dark clear night. Wasn't the case a few years ago. I'm worried that the same thing will happen to the south of Marshall now with the proposed data center. Data center has no need for a lot of windows. It's not likely to be spilling a lot of light out from its function, but it's going to have parking lots. It's going to have infrastructure. People tend to forget that lights really don't need to aim up at the sky. And people living anywhere near that data center are going to lose not only wetlands, not only are they going to be exposed to more noise pollution, but they're also going to lose the ability to enjoy the night sky on those nights that used to be very common around here to becoming less common. So thank you. Please reconsider this data center and do what you can as future opportunities arise to prevent it from coming in. And also please open up opportunity for public discussion. We appreciate this opportunity for public comment. I know many people felt blindsided by the mega site. I hope that there is more opportunity for public discussion, perhaps even a referendum on the data center. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Deborah Osterhart. I live in Fredonia Township, Division Drive. Let's think back a few years. I have Tamarack Creek running through the back of my property. This summer, it dried up because of the hot weather. Just the weather. If we put that data center in, Tamarack is going to be gone. There won't be any getting it back. That's going to affect Kalamazoo River and everything that follows downriver. The oil spill, I moved after that. But I know there's been a lot of problems from the oil spill. It wasn't until recently they stopped taking dead trees out of that property. We don't need another problem like that. Granted, it's not going to be an oil spill, but we don't need the pollution.
Thank you. Hey, last call, second to last call, somebody please. Yep, thank you.
You know me, I'm Regis Klingler, 348 Butler Court in Marshall. I wasn't gonna say anything, but I think I've got something I can add. All these projects have benefits and risks. Data center benefits are property tax and jobs. Data centers do not create many jobs. Construction, yes, but permanent jobs, very few. A lot of them are gonna be off-site remotely. You know, there's property tax. This property tax is going to do the LDFA initially. And there's probably going to be some tax exemptions for that also. So even taxes isn't all that much and doesn't benefit Marshall directly. The cost, people have said that here tonight, or this afternoon, that yes, there's going to be noise, there's going to be air pollution. 1 gigawatt of power production is going to create a lot of noise. My own personal background, I know gas turbines are very loud and very, a lot of additional air pollution, even if they have air pollution control equipment on them. The water might not be as much a concern as people think because it's supposed to be a closed cycle loop system. That system and the steam generators on the gas turbines will need makeup water. So there's going to be some water use. I don't know how much, but it's not going to be the millions of gallons a day that people think it is, but it's still going to be an effect. Also, the amount of electricity needed, you know, they're going to generate 1 gigawatt hours, and it's going to use 1.4, 1.5. So that means they're going to use more power at times, and that has to be brought in by high voltage lines from either the west or the east, depending on where it is. So you're going to affect clearing land for a high voltage power line right away. That's another effect on this. So there's a lot of environmental considerations, light pollution, noise, a lot of things. I don't think it's worth it. In my cost benefit ratio, I'd say no, don't even consider it. So yeah, there are projects that are good that help the city. The city really doesn't need the revenue. I mean, we're getting $2 million from Ford. Do we really need this money? I don't think so, unless we want to be a Detroit or something. So the benefits just aren't there for this project. And I hope you really consider that and give people an opportunity to talk about it and ask questions about it. Not here, but even before this goes into effect. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. We're as long as someone wants to speak, they are welcome to come up and speak.
Thanks. My name's Lee Sherman and Mark is my son. I thought Dave brought some great points up and everybody pretty much has brought up valid points that I think we all need to look into. So I do appreciate the work that's gone into this and that is trying to bring jobs to Marshall, and we do need jobs in Marshall. So we also need to be good stewards to the land. And we can't undo it once we mess it up, as it's been mentioned. I'm just very concerned that we have more transparency than we had with Blue Oval, and that we all have an opportunity to learn more about this and weigh the benefits and risks so that we can make a more educated decision that will show that we're good stewards and we're trying to preserve this wonderful community and keep it as nice as it is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I'll go. Okay, so my name is Tyler Ebel and I live in Fredonia Township. We were just told who live in Fredonia that one of the fields is actually now zoned for industrial. And with that being said, this year, I know I've noticed so many like cranes in the back of the field. So now if we're gonna start affecting the Brooks Nature Center, and then if that land now is going to be industrialized, then are we even thinking about nature? And then
What about the roads? There's already so much traffic now with construction. Is this gonna add to the construction? And our bills, I don't think anybody else wants to pay more in bills with electricity. So how do we know it's not gonna affect the people? How do we know we're not gonna have to pay more? You guys can tell us that, but how do we truly know that we can trust what's being told to us? Yeah, and I'm with a lot of everybody in here, and I am not for the data center as well. I just want to put that out there. That was it.
Thank you. Right, I want to say I appreciate all of the comments. There may be some board reports at the end of the meeting from the city, or board members, but we do appreciate you being here for your comments. And it's obviously, part of the public process. So thank you very much, and we will now move on to the rest of tonight's meeting. All right, we have a consent agenda. We don't have any presentations and recognitions. We have a consent agenda that includes the financial reports and the DDA and LDFA annual reports, which are just required filings that happens every year that includes the things that we've had in the financial reports. So, and the board minutes from November 20th, 2025. I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Make a motion.
Support. Moved and supported. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you very much. All right, Mr. Durian, made an update.
Made an update. So first of all, downtown development, DDA and LDFA funds that go to MEDA. So those dollars are reinvested in the community, and then they're used administratively to leverage additional private dollars to support the community. So we have MEDA grants, and this is kind of a year-end report at the end of the year. We have a business acceleration grant. We have a facade beautification grant. We have a tourism grant to fund community events. And we have a downtown decoration placemaking grant. So this past year, we've spent a total of $122,670 to support downtown businesses, projects, and events. So for the business acceleration project or grant, there were 27 businesses that were supported. For the beautification placemaking matching grant, there were 23 projects that were supported. And then for the tourism grant, there were 11 events that were supported. And then thanks to the administrative support we get from the DDA and the LDFA, we were able to raise private funding to fund things like the Marshall Parade, the Marshall Christmas tree, the repair and purchase of all the Christmas decorations downtown, which MEDA is responsible for. We fund the Marshall Bucks Buy Local program with private funds. And then Marshall Motor Fest and a variety of other things are also funded. This past month, we had our second annual tree lighting ceremony in a winter storm. Thanks to our brave MEDA and city staff for pulling that off. And then we had a successful Christmas parade. I thought it went really well this year. We created new resources on our website and in the Welcome Center to respond to the increased demand for housing in Marshall. So we created market sheets and posted information on our website that encourages people to stay or move to Marshall. We have had billboards up on I-94 throughout the summer, fall, and Christmas season. These are focused on visiting and shopping in downtown Marshall. We have 324 chamber members. This is up from 176 members from 5 years ago. So there's a lot of business growth and activity growth with the chamber. We have What's Brewings in the mornings and 501s in the evenings. And we're doing some additional outreach to downtown businesses. And we'll be expanding on that next year, where we're trying to work with service, retail, and restaurants to support their efforts and get them to coordinate efforts so that we can have we're trying to help their efforts to grow their individual businesses and create a more vibrant downtown. On the LDFA side, we are setting up our annual outreach meetings with all of our Brooks Industrial Park businesses to get feedback on how we can support their business growth, trying to get move from Blue Oval to kind of getting back to supporting our local businesses and our businesses in the industrial park. At the request of industrial park companies, we created a web page and social media effort to attract and retain young professionals to Marshall. We revamped our economic development webpage by providing new, easily accessible information for site selectors to attract new business to Marshall. We created new maps and media content for the Brooks Industrial Park, highlighting available acreage at the Brooks. And then we're also marketing the available buildings for sale or for rent. We added location maps that show kind of Brooks Industrial Park, where it's located compared to the major campus and I-69 and the rail line. Again, as part of a site selection effort to get information out to site selectors and for business attraction purposes. Over the past couple of years, we created 2 videos, again, supporting the Brooks, where we have one that is about Marshall being a good place to do business, and then another one that provides information just about the industrial park. And then that includes interviews with LDFA businesses. So we are, those need to be updated. So that's something we're going to do this year, is to update those videos. And we created a workforce development page to support our largest manufacturers. So in and adjacent to the Brooks Industrial Park is kind of our focus here. And then this content includes employer job hiring, employer videos, and then videos that feature skilled trades training. That's all on our website. And then we are offering a matching grant to LDFA businesses, kind of building up. We received a workforce development grant a couple of years ago that expired. We want to continue that effort and build on it. So this would incentivize employer participation. So employers would apply for the grant, and then their contribution would be matched by MEDA. So it's the idea of trying to encourage training, upskilling their existing workforce, providing supportive services to help with the retention of their workforce. And then there's a special focus on developing partnerships, encouraging partnerships between our local businesses at the park, at the industrial park, and our Marshall Public Schools and Kellogg Community College. So it's really important to get employer engagement on that. And once you do that, you're able to try to facilitate connections. It's very difficult to do, but it's something that that's important. And then with that, by developing that partnership, it opens us up for additional workforce development grants. So when you get employers to kind of work together, you can access workforce dollars from the state. And so that kind of can be our focus for next year.
Thanks, Jim. Any board questions?
That was an awful lot of data, Jim. Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you have that in a written format, or will it be part of MEDA's year-end report or something that we can
Yeah,
access?
I can share this with you, and
Would you be able to email it to the board?
yeah, I'll send it to the board after the meeting.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, thank you, Jim. Any other questions for Jim? Okay, Brownfield BRA new business, the this 211-213 East Michigan Brownfield Plan. Turn it over to city staff.
So I'm really gonna just introduce, this project was introduced to us at last month's meeting, where we just said that we had this brownfield plan coming. There is information in the packet about the brownfield plan, but tonight, or this afternoon, I don't know, this evening, whatever we're at right now, we have the people who are here for the project, right? They know a lot more about it than I do, and how their plans that they have presented to us, how that's gonna work, and we're gonna be able to ask questions as we have. So I have a PowerPoint, part of the meeting, so I was just gonna bring up the PowerPoint.
Sure.
You wanna introduce yourself and kind of?
Yeah. Hey, good evening. I'm Dave Van Huren. I'm with, I'm an environmental consultant, brownfield consultant with, the company is Tri-Terra. We're out of Lansing. We're a Michigan-based company. We do environmental consulting and brownfield planning, for economic development projects, throughout Michigan. And so we're here. We're the author of the brownfield plan. And I do have a short presentation. I'll go through the highlights of the proposed project and what the brownfield plan entails. I have with me also in the audience, Brad, who's the property owner and applicant for the project as well. And I believe Ryan's here. He represents the city and we did a third-party review of our brownfield plan, kind of, and acted as consultant for the city. Is here as well. The project, the site is, as you indicated, it's 2 parcels on East Michigan Avenue, comprises about 0.14 acres. And how the project qualifies for a brownfield, typically brownfields are commonly associated with property that's environmentally contaminated. There's some contamination below the ground that has to be addressed. And however, this project, there is no underground contamination, but it has been deemed as functionally obsolete by the city assessor, which allows makes the property eligible for brownfield incentives. So I'm sorry, you can just keep moving along.
Yeah, just.
Yep.
Tell me.
So I just want to go through this quickly, but it can be I can sit here and talk all night if you want about brownfields. But the next slide will show, we go to the next, that's kind of the layout of the parcel. It was that previous slide, but here's a picture. The next few slides show pictures of the interior of the building. And then below that is a schematic of the proposed floor plan, the new floor plan. So it is a 3-story building. The plan is to invest about $3.6 million into the building to fully activate the first floor, 4 commercial suites on the first floor, and then 8 apartments on the second and third floor. So it'd be 4 apartments on each floor that are currently vacant. So it'd be to put apartments into that building and just fully reutilize the property. The building has been was constructed. You can go to the next slide. Was constructed in 1888. It's a very old building. The brownfield conditions associated with, in addition to it being functionally obsolete, and that last bullet on here gives you kind of it's a summary of the assessor's evaluation of the property, qualifying it as functionally obsolete. The big issue with putting this property back to use would be, in addition to demolition costs, but there's also a considerable amount of asbestos containing materials in the building, throughout the building, including wood paneling, the adhesive that's holding the wood paneling against the wall, window glazing, and other materials that need to be removed to make the building safe for renovation and for living. Go to the next, and there's a couple more slides of the interior of the building. This is a breakdown of the costs associated with the project. And what a brownfield plan does is it identifies these are costs that are going to be incurred to put this building back to use that you wouldn't have at a greenfield site that's undeveloped, that's never been developed. So it's very expensive to put this type of building back to use. And this allows for the use of future property taxes to reimburse the developer for these costs. So this is kind of a line item budget for those costs. And we did a phase 1 environmental site assessment there to see if there's any environmental contamination. We did a phase 2 investigation, confirmed that there wasn't any underground contamination. However, we did find, asbestos containing materials in the building, and it's going to cost about more than $250,000 to get the asbestos and the lead-based paint out of that building, and then another $100,000 for demolition. And demolition means interior demolition and some potentially selective exterior demolition. The building's going to stay, but it's just removing all of the functional obsolescence for the building and putting in new mechanical, new electrical, new plumbing. And so this is the cost to get it to that level where you can actually start construction. With all these projects and these old historic buildings, once you start getting into the project, you can encounter things that weren't anticipated. So there is a line item for contingency. And then the cost to prepare the brownfield plan and implement the brownfield plan. And then lastly, what the brownfield plan does, it's the property owner will incur the costs up front and then make the investment into the property, the $3.6 million in investment in the property. That'll increase the taxable value of the property against the capture the future taxes, the increment of new taxes to reimburse the property owner for their costs that they've incurred. So and what we're proposing is a 20-year plan based on the investment that's being made and the costs that are going to be incurred and the new taxes generated. We forecast it's going to be a 20-year duration of the brownfield plan. So over that 20 years, we also included 5% interest on those costs because it's going to take 20 years to get reimbursed in full. So we also included a line item in there for interest. And when I'm done, I can answer any questions you guys might have. The next slide shows a breakdown of the new taxes. Over that 20-year period. I hope you can go to the previous one, previous slide. It's not on there, or maybe you're printed in a different order. So the next slide will show, here's a breakdown of the developer's reimbursement over that 20-year period. The property is going to generate over $600,000 in new taxes. And of that, $577,000 in reimbursement to the developer. There will be some capture of the taxes that go to the state brownfield fund, which is required under the brownfield laws that when there's a brownfield plan that has capture of state and local millage, that a portion of that, it's at 3 mils of the state education tax goes to the state for a brownfield fund. And then we're also proposing a 12-year tax abatement on the property, which would have a value of $365,000. The base taxes, the taxes that are paid currently on this property will not be touched. The taxes that get paid every year currently are still going to remain, and that's estimated at $325,000 over the next 20 years. And also there's a debt millage that we're not going to capture any debt millages as well. So that's actually going to increase the revenue for debt millage based on this investment. One point I want to make is this is a performance-based type program. If the city approves this brownfield plan and for some reason the property owner or developer does not do the project, does not make that investment, the value of the property will not increase. There will be no tax capture. There will be no reimbursement. It's for reimbursement of costs that have actually incurred by the developer, that they provided invoices and proof that the contractors have been paid. Then the taxes that get increased based on the investment, and then the city would capture those new taxes for reimbursement. So essentially it's a performance base. Whatever you approve here today, the developer still has the obligation to complete the project. I think what I want to do now is go to the previous slide, which had that bar graph. I wanted to put this in here to show you, because there is what is on the agenda today is the consideration of the brownfield plan by the DDA board and the brownfield board for the tax capture, the TIF plan. We're also proposing as part of the overall incentive here is a 12-year tax abatement under the Obsolete Property Rehabilitation Act, or OPRA. This graph shows kind of that relationship between the tax abatement and the TIF capture. The in blue at the bottom of that chart, starting at year one and going over the next 25 years, blue is the base taxes. Those are the taxes that are currently being paid on the property. When that investment gets made and the value of the property increases, the red demonstrates the tax abatement. So what that means is when there's the 3.6 million is invested into the building and the taxable value essentially goes up, there's a tax abatement which would freeze the taxable value of the building for 12 years of the local millage, which means there would be no increase in taxes on the local millage. However, we are proposing in the brownfield plan tax capture on the state millage, the 24 mills of school operating and state education funds. That's in green. So in that first 12 years, there's going to be both a tax abatement, but then on a local millage, that tax capture on the state millage. Once after 12 years, once that tax abatement expires and is no longer part of the incentive, then the local and state millage gets captured for the remaining 8 years of the brownfield plan for reimbursement to the developer. And then after on year 21, you'll see the blue bars that shows all of the new taxes now fully go to all of the taxing jurisdictions, the taxing units, the city, county, state. I wanted to, we include this in our slide. It's not a lot of these projects have both a tax abatement and tax capture or tax increment financing. This one was structured this way because really it's the tax abatement will allow us to, you know, abate the local millage, but also when this project is also being submitted to the state of Michigan for a grant. It allows us to maximize the amount of grant dollars or increase the amount of grant dollars we can get from the state, which will then lower the financial impact on the local, on the city, on the county, on the local millage. So it's kind of in a way to like leverage a little bit more from the state as far as like grant funding, as opposed to, you know, the local TIP funding. So, go to the next slide. So in summary, you know, what we're proposing is what the property owner is proposing is it's a 22-year brownfield plan, but there's going to be only 20 years of capture. You know, adopting the plan today, then there's the time to complete the project, and then it gets onto the tax rolls, and then tax capture will start on year 2 for 20 years. State and local capture of taxes with a 12-year tax abatement. Again, here's a summary of the activities associated with it. And the total impact, you know, the brownfield plan is 577,000, almost 578,000 in new taxes. That's it in a summary, and I'm just here to answer any questions you guys might have.
Just a quick one from me. So when it's frozen at what it is now, so that is the appraised value, those taxes they stay consistent through the whole process.
For the 12 years, yeah.
Does it theoretically then, let's say that property is not developed and keeps sliding more into obsolescence, could that number even continue to go down with the assessments? Could the next thing you know, it's not even generating that much tax revenue because it's just sitting there and falling further into obsolescence?
Yeah, the value could go down, but that's not an impact of the tax abatement.
No, understood.
Yeah.
Understood.
Yeah. And the abatements on the improvements on the building, you know, the land value will still kind of go up, but the OBRA abatement does not apply to the land. So if the land continues to go up, there will be an increase in new taxes paid on land. It's kind of a detail.
Any additional board member questions? Then I would say staff, with your consultant, what does the city staff? And obviously this goes in front of council as well, correct? Okay.
Yeah, the purpose today is to get the Brownfield Authority to approve the Brownfield Plan, make a recommendation to City Council to consider it. But it's also, it's within the DDA. The DDA is subject to collecting taxes within the district. It's an agreement to forego the new taxes, the DDA to forego that capture. And that would be on the agenda today as well. And if that's approved, then we would come back. If we haven't already, we'd provide an interlocal agreement between the Brownfield Authority and the DDA to agree to that tax plan.
And I haven't seen that agreement yet.
What's that?
I have not seen that agreement yet, so I would need to see that.
Yeah, we'll send that to you. We have a draft. If you don't have one in place, we have a draft that we can provide.
So with that being said, as a point of order, this has been on the agenda and reference for the brownfield, but it has not been on the agenda for action by the DDA. So if there's action needed by the DDA, do we need another meeting to do that? Because it has not been listed as part of a DDA meeting. So that would be my concern, that we cannot do that tonight.
Well, we would have to address that
So there needs, it's here for us to address from the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, and that's understandable. We could make that recommendation to city council. But if you need something from us, from the DDA, that is not on our agenda. So we would have to either schedule a special meeting to make it happen or whatever you guys need, but I don't see that as happening tonight. Just because it wasn't referenced, it wasn't noticed.
If I could offer also, I mean, if the BRA approves it to move forward, you can move forward with city council, because there's gonna be a public hearing, there'll be a city council. And then I think that would give you time to come back to the DDA with the interlocal agreement. That agreement is not gonna hold you up from going forward. Like that.
That's true. Is there, will this plan be subject to site plan review of the planning commission?
So, I do not anticipate that this project would need a site plan review. I have kind of consulted with our planning commission members. The only exterior work that they're adding an elevator to the building. And quite frequently we allow that scope to be kind of an administrative review. Just to make sure that we're not impacting, adjacent parking or, anything like that. So there would be a review. But
City staff review
the
and
work,
engineers and all that stuff.
the primary work of this project is interior scope. They're doing window replacement, but they're not really modifying the facades, or changing the footprint of that building.
I just wasn't sure if it was even subject to site plan review, and if it was, who was doing it, because sometimes we do it and.
Yeah. I would definitely look at it. And if there was more impact than we are anticipating at this point, then we would consider taking it to planning commission. But at this point, we would expect that to be an administrative review.
Any further board questions to staff or the consultants or?
I was just gonna offer up that the city has also has a consultant here that has helped us with our internal review. So if there is anything, that we have more from are we covering ourselves from the city's perspective, right? Like he is also available. I don't know if you want to introduce yourself and.
Yeah, Ryan Kilpatrick, I'm the owner of Flywheel Companies. I've been working in economic development, workforce housing, affordable housing, market rate housing for the last 22 years. Facilitating work mostly with municipalities, really trying to ensure that we have strong, vibrant downtowns and that we have a healthy workforce that can afford to live in the towns that they work in. So our job, I used to work for the Michigan Economic Development Corporation and I was the staff liaison between local communities and developers to try to figure out how to make these projects work, how to ensure that they make financial sense for the community. Generally, what we wanted to do is ensure that we were catalyzing private investment in Main Street to ensure that our small downtowns can thrive, but also to make sure that they make financial sense for developers to actually execute. Because these downtown projects can be very expensive, especially when they've got lead and asbestos to be mitigated. They've got historic features that are expensive to upgrade to 21st century building code requirements. But we want to make sure that you all feel very comfortable about making a commitment of city finances to restore and rehabilitate a historic resource in the downtown. So any questions, I'm happy to answer. Normally I'd go on like a 20-minute presentation, but Dave did a great job. So.
But is that your recommendation that this meets all your criteria with city staff and you reviewed?
Yeah, I mean, so they were very open with their data. We've reviewed the pro forma. We've looked at their costs. They are all in line with traditional construction costs. I don't have a concern that anything is inflated within the pro forma. We've looked at the improvements that they're making to the building. We understand the lead and asbestos requirements. We also understand the significant amount of economic value that comes from having more people living downtown. We've looked at the rental rates. Those are solid for the local communities. So the local workforce can afford to live in those. It's going to be, priced appropriately for teachers and firefighters and folks who are working in the community. So broadly, I think it's a good project. It is a little bit creative to use both the Obsolete Property Rehabilitation Act abatement and the brownfield TIF. We do see that. Mostly it's happening in communities that have kind of the staff capacity to deal with it, a Grand Rapids or a Detroit or a Lansing. But in smaller towns, it works really well. I think that the important thing to note right now is sort of twofold. One, we're in an environment right now where interest rates are still high. And the impacts of inflation during COVID are still prevalent. And so everything is expensive, right? Our hope would be that in the future, you don't have to provide as much abatement plus tax reimbursement to make these projects work in downtown. Right now, to be honest, you do, right? This project probably doesn't work without this level of incentive. But what we would recommend long-term is that you think about a policy to consider what is the threshold at which we would consider these kinds of projects? When are we willing to pair multiple incentives? How do we define public benefit, right? Is the workforce housing plus the ground floor activation the right amount of public benefit? All those things are longer-term policy questions that we would recommend you kind of debate as a board and think about how do we want to establish thresholds and tiers for reimbursement. This is a project, regardless of the policy that you set, we probably would have said, this is a good project, right? It's going to rehabilitate a historic building in the downtown. It's going to add housing. It's going to add space for active ground floor retail or commercial. So I don't foresee a future policy impacting this project.
Well, this board has talked about coming up down the road with those policies. Is that something your group can help us with?
Yeah.
There you go. There's your answer.
I have a quick question for Marcia, without getting into the weeds too much and not having a magnifying glass. Can you just confirm what you were sharing earlier on the site plan that is drafting?
In the present, like,
Yes, so
it's in his presentation that we had.
that was shared with us in the packet, that this development here in the site plan fits within the existing perimeter of the building.
Yes.
Okay,
The
so there's
only-
nothing kind of going out into the alley.
The only thing is the elevator.
The elevator will.
Yes, right.
Okay,
I'm,
so the elevator will then go beyond the boundary
so
of the
this,
building
okay,
there.
right. If I'm at the screen here, you guys, this is the elevator that they're proposing.
Yes.
It's tucked in that corner
Notch right there.
between the existing building profile. I don't know if you can, no, you can't see where I'm, oh yeah, you
we
can,
Yeah,
okay.
you see it.
So this is the existing building perimeter,
Okay,
right?
thank you.
And so their elevator is kind of overhanging right
So-
here.
A little jut out on the west side, but not so far as to the alley.
The drive area of that alley is beyond the end of this existing building here.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Correct.
Right. Well, it's not uncommon to have the property lines where the individual property owners go into or to meet the alley.
Correct.
And that, even though that is private, it's publicly accessed. And that's just what I wanted to verify.
Yeah.
Because the overall shape is the same, the building and the parcels, it just kind of echoes. So I just want to make sure we were staying within the confines of the footprint of the building, except for that addition of the elevator.
Yep.
Thank you.
Sure. Question, do we have to, for sure, do we have to go to taxing authorities and get approval from them for the abatement, or is that all covered under brownfield development?
You have to notify the tax agent, well, every unit that you're gonna, you're considering the brownfield plan, that there's gonna be a public comment period and a public hearing.
Matt,
So they could,
the notices were sent to the taxing authorities earlier this month for the January.
okay, so they can come and give public comment on it.
Yep.
But they can't say no.
They can't opt out, but they can express their view.
Okay.
And just to further that, they're not losing any existing dollars. They're just being, your approval and the city council approval would require them to forego the future revenue that would result.
Right, they're staying, but the
Yeah.
point is, they're staying static for 12 years. So, you know, if you're anticipating is let's use the schools, for instance, a increase in the taxable value every year, and you approve this, you're not gonna get that on this property. So I just wanted to make sure I understood that and that we as a group understood that and, that there might be some taxing jurisdictions that don't want that.
Except for debt, correct?
The
The
debt
debt
might-
will still be captured as the taxable
We'll see the
value.
benefit of that investment.
Increases.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one other note I would add is if one of these apartments does become home to a family with children, single parent, couple with kids who enroll in the district will get the dollars, the per pupil dollars from that new student. So adding housing has a potential benefit.
Good point. Can you go back to that one screen with your bar chart? So if I'm reading this right, the gain through the other taxing units into the city of the value that was created is on year 21.
Yeah,
Is that right?
yeah,
So the first 20 years is shared with the developer
Yeah.
on the tax value increases. Year 21 going forward is the whole schmear for them.
yeah, this chart goes beyond the duration of the
Sure.
brownfield plan, but I wanted to show that, boom, that year 21, that's where you're gonna have your full.
And again, I think you mentioned, I know you did, but let's re-clarify, when they go for their reimbursement, it is dollar for dollar per the invoice from the group that has been vetted and approved by the city. So it's not like this is the number and you get it no matter what. This is the number that you better show the receipts for the asbestos abatement. You better show the receipts for and the paid invoices on the lead abatement.
There will be a reimbursement agreement, a contract that gets executed by both the property owner and the city. That'll outline the reimbursement agreement process. And we will prepare a petition that'll show, here's the 10-day notice for the asbestos abatement. Here's the license of the abatement contractor. Here's our report saying that it's all been removed and we documented the removal through air monitoring and sampling. But then also we'll prepare, here's a copy of all the invoices and then proof of payment, either through like a sworn statement, affidavit, or lien waiver. That here's the report showing that it was done. Here's the invoices, the actual costs, and then the actual amount paid. And then we submit that to the city. I think the city would have your consultant review that to verify it. And then there would be, and that's gonna be all outlined in the reimbursement agreement, that process and everyone's obligation. And then,
Is this any different than what we did with Cronin?
I'm not familiar with.
Sorry. Nobody here
Or mine.
remembers that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's essentially the
It's very
same.
similar to any kind of grant, CDBG or any grant
Yeah.
programs you have, very similar,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have another environmental question. Because of the location of this being a downtown building, the building itself, sidewalk, et cetera, caps a lot of the property. I know that environmental work was done to go in and assess how much asbestos, lead, et cetera, to, have a figure to work with to calculate all this.
Yeah.
Presuming that digging will have to occur for that elevator bay below ground for support, et cetera, will it be necessary or required to do any sampling?
No, we sampled the site and there's no contamination in the soil.
So that would be like in the rear where the soil was existing, I assume not boring down into the basement.
I mean, we did borings in the basement. Yes. Yeah.
You said you did a phase 1 and a phase 2? Yeah.
Phase 2 require that you do that.
The phase 1 identified, what a phase 1 is, looks at the history of the site and are there any environmental concerns there? And then if there are, which I don't have that report with me, but I can provide it. If there's any concerns, it's being a historic downtown property with a lot of history, we recommended a phase 2, and that's where it actually drilled into the soil below the building and collected soil samples.
No findings.
No findings. Really what our concern was, if it was a redevelopment where you're demolishing a building and then excavating new foundations and new utilities, we really want to sample that soil. This is a rehabilitation of an existing structure, very minimal, except for maybe the pit for the elevator shaft and everything. But our real concern would be, it's going to be residential use. Could there be vapors based on the history of that area? have to get into the building, create an indoor area. So that's, a lot of our sampling was to address that as well.
Right where I was thinking, thank you.
So,
That's a very common concern that we, especially in housing, want to make sure.
So are there, in looking in the plan, I didn't see any administrative fees. Like, is this, who's watching over all of this? Who's processing?
There's a line at the very, near the end that says.
Is there?
100% is going back to the developer, so whatever administrative work the BRA, the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority is doing, will have to be across or, picked up somewhere else.
Is that common?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. It's a trade-off for the investment. The gentleman owns the property, is making a pretty significant investment in the property, so there's got to be some trade-off there, and the payoff maybe for the taxing units is in the future, but the payoff is, likely to happen if you invest that money.
The city staff is gonna handle that, or are we gonna have city staff?
Well, we would hire
Or consultant to do that.
and I think that's maybe something that if we're developing for, policies, move for future projects, if that's a concern, there's probably, somehow to pass through our fees or a consultant, right, or something, but we just don't have that established.
The last one we did was, I think, for what they're putting the storage units now. So you would know how much administrative work that has been, which I'm presuming is not a lot.
That one hasn't, that was from that. William's been doing most of the, financial kind of side of that, but.
Yeah.
Any further questions for the group yet, Matt?
It's been brought several times on residential apartments, workforce housing. So the plan for the apartments, the 8 units, is for long-term rentals and not short-term rentals.
That's my understanding, yes, it's long-term rentals.
It would have to be in order to be grant eligible, to be eligible for the grants they're trying to get, it would have to be long-term.
My question.
I apologize. This is board discussion, this is not a public hearing, so I know you've got a question, but hopefully these guys will stay around and they will happily talk to you afterwards. But, it's just one of those. I do apologize. I'm not ignoring you, and I promise. Okay. Is there any further board questions for staff or either of the consultants? You probably need a motion from us to approve the brownfield plan as presented for 211 to 213 East Michigan. I'm gonna make the
approval, Mr. Chair.
Any further discussion?
The motion is to approve it or to recommend?
Recommend.
I'm sorry, it's to recommend to city council from the BRA, correct? So
I make that motion with that understanding.
And I support that with that.
Thing. Perfect. I love it when a plan comes together. All right, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming and we appreciate it. Development downtown is a big deal, but we're sorry we couldn't address the DDA portion, but understand the logistics. It needs to be on the agenda, needs to be addressed before we can bring it into the meeting, so.
And I think.
Sorry about that.
And I think it's important to say thank you for investing in our downtown.
Take
Thank
your
you for
group,
taking an
who is that?
obsolescent property
Yeah.
and,
Thank you.
and investing in it for the citizens of Marshall, for our kiddos that could potentially move into buildings, for our downtown businesses that could potentially locate there. I think it's a really important to support our developers and our people that are spending $3.5 million in the community. So thank you.
All right, moving on. There is no BRA old business. There is no business for DDA. There is no business for LDFA. Going to board reports. Does the city have any comment? I do want to have one piece, and I noticed, and I appreciate all of you folks that came and spoke today. And it seemed like one of the reoccurring themes were more information, more questions. How can we talk? How can we get our point across? I didn't watch the revamp of the meeting. I don't like looking at myself at all. Trust me, the camera puts 100 pounds on me for some reason. It feels like it. But I do believe one of the board members did ask that question very specifically to the developer along the lines of, look, there's a lot going on in this community. We'd like to have you have community input. You commit to having community input meetings. And they did. I think they just said, can we get a little further along in our diligence to know even if we can do the project, let alone what it'll be. So they have committed to community meetings. So, and it'll be, my understanding is well before they get to the final stages. So you can probably go through the meeting and look for that and find exactly what they said. Please don't quote me. Any other board reports?
I just want, while we have an audience here, I think there's a lot of, and I probably should have talked about it in the financial reports. But I think there's a lot of misconception about what an LDFA is and what a DDA is. And I think it's important for people to understand that the purpose of the LDFA and the DDA is to support the economic development within the boundaries of those particular entities. We capture taxes as a DDA in the downtown district and use that to pour back into the DDA district. We capture taxes as an LDFA, business, industrial taxes from those taxpayers that pay their business taxes into the LDFA, not on Locust Street, not on Forest Street, not on anywhere else, but those in the industrial park. We capture those taxes in order for the benefit of those businesses that operate in there. And that industrial property that has been vacant for 20, 30, 40 plus years has always been industrial zoned for a very long time. So it was only a matter of time before some entity said, wow, that's a really great piece of property. We want to locate our business there. So it just happened to be this particular developer that wanted to locate in that facility. And there are very strict EGLE requirements on what a developer or a business owner can or can't do. You can't just plop your business in a wetland. You can't do it. Well, I mean, I guess you can, but you're gonna be fined tremendously. So there are some requirements that this particular developer is going to have to follow. Noise, pollution, emissions, wetlands, water runoff, parking, all of those things they are gonna have to follow. And we haven't even gotten to the site plan process, if they even get that far, because there are some things that they need to have in place before they could even entertain anything like this. But I think, I'm not gonna speak on behalf of everyone here, but we hear you, right? We hear you. I think the city hears you. And those are gonna be some things that this body and the city looks at as we move forward in the process. We are concerned about those things. I am concerned about those things too. And I think I've always been a both and person. And so I hope that through this process, it can be a both and. We can have increased tax base, more jobs, and then do our best and to make sure that our environment is protected.
Any other additional board comments, reports?
I would like to just piggyback on what Amanda shared for the audience that is here tonight. I appreciate the request that was submitted, that a FOIA was submitted and that was shared with us. I think that's an excellent tool that's available to all citizens. And I would also encourage everybody to look at the public information that is available, to go back to the meeting where the developer was here, look at the questions that were asked by this body, the answers that we received. And I think that may answer a lot of the questions that were brought up tonight, and a lot of the concerns that were mentioned here were echoed by this body. So please take a look.
Any other board reports? Going once, going twice. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. All in favor? If you're not in favor, stay here. You know, I guess that's the way it is. Meeting adjourned. Thank you. Thank you to all of you who came and shared with us. We appreciate you.
Looks like. Yesterday, I've been making, wait.